Hi, I'm Beth Storrs from Ideas to Go, and I'm here to introduce the next three speakers. I want to thank the YCCI for allowing me to do so, and I've really enjoyed the relationship that we've built with YCCI over the years. So does anyone else feel like technology and e-commerce is moving and changing so fast that once you learn something, it's old news or obsolete? Anybody? Anybody? Yeah. Is anybody else besides me new to phone payment apps? Like, I just started. Yeah, okay. So while some of us may be behind the curve, or some of us may be on the curve, Alibaba Group is well beyond the curve. And I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Lee McCabe, Vice President North America of Alibaba Group. He's an expert in the Chinese consumer and in e-commerce. In the US, Lee McCabe helps companies understand the vast opportunity in the Chinese market, leveraging his prior experience at Facebook, where he was the first global head of travel, as well as his experience at eBay and Expedia. So please welcome Lee McCabe.
Good morning, everyone. Man, a high bar has already been set. Three great presentations and presenters this morning. Bridget was very gracious in the first one to give me a great setup by featuring a quote by Jack Ma about how we don't really take note of competition. We are absolutely focused on the customer. And that's absolutely right. We're completely customer-centric, customer-first as a company. So I want to share with you all how we think about the customer across Alibaba Group. But to do that, it would be remiss of me not to give you context, first of all, about China, of course, where the majority of our business is, context about China, context about e-commerce in China, and context about our ecosystem. You know, we've moved beyond just singular platforms to an ecosystem and how we leverage the ecosystem for the good of businesses, but also the good of the consumer. So, China. I'm very fortunate. I visit China pretty much every 6 weeks, and the place is incredible. At the rate of change, the pace in China is unbelievable. It feels like there's something new every time I visit, a new motorway, a new technology. It changes all the time. But I think there are some fundamental shifts that have happened in China. And it's these. You know, China used to be considered, and still pretty much is, as the factory of the world. At one point, it was hard to think of any product that wasn't being mass-produced in China. But now it's shifted because of the growing consumer, the burgeoning middle class in China. It's not just the factory of the world. Now it's pretty much the consumer of the world. And I've got a few metrics to validate that point. So factory to consumer. Because of that business dynamic, it used to be an export market only. Everything was being exported to the rest of the world. Now it's also an import market. There's a growing hunger for international goods. International goods from all over the world, especially the US. There's a thirst for US product and US brands like never before. So now it's bilateral. There is just as much product going back into China to meet that demand. Travel is changing. If you think about the Chinese tourist, it was largely a local travel industry. That's changing too. Soon the Chinese tourist will be the most important tourist for every country in the world. It's shifted from a very local travel industry to global. And the last one, made in China. You saw this label everywhere. And for the most part, I think it had a negative connotation. That's changed as well. I think pound for pound, if you look at products being manufactured in China, the quality of those products now is just as good as any product being manufactured anywhere else in the world. So we've gone from made in China to designed in China. The innovation happening in China is incredible. You know, I was naive. I worked in Silicon Valley for some time, and if you'd have asked me where I thought the global hub of innovation was, I would have said Silicon Valley, without doubt. Now, having worked for a Chinese company nearly 2 years and visiting China so frequently, I was wrong. These Chinese companies are innovating as fast, if not faster, than anyone in Silicon Valley. So you have designed in China, where you're already starting to see technologies that have been born and designed in China that have been adopted by the rest of the world. China is important. Here's why. You know, every business should be thinking about China now. Should absolutely have China on their roadmap, no matter what business you're in, because of the potential of this thing. If you look at consumption, the US is still the largest and will be for some time. But if you look at the added growth in consumption, China is growing faster than the US. And if you just take that growth component of how China will grow over a 5-year period, just that 5 years of growth is equal to total growth for Germany. Total consumption, rather, for Germany. So just that added growth is the size of Germany over 5 years. That's why China is important for all business. It's even more important if you're in digital and e-commerce. So here's another metric. By next year, nearly 26.7% of global online shoppers will be in China. Nearly a third of the world's global online shoppers will be in China. If you have a digital business, you should be selling into China right now. A third of global online shoppers, but because they're buying way more, they're far more active than other international online shoppers. By next year, 57% of global online sales will come from China. That's why it's important. It's also important for domestic business because we're getting more and more Chinese tourists. Right now into the US, in terms of inbound, Chinese tourists are the third largest tourist. That will change quickly. Look at the years coming ahead. You know, by 2022, China will be nearly number one, nipping at the heels of the UK as the most important tourist for the US. I think this is actually conservative. From people I've talked to at the US Travel Association, they think China will be number one by 2020 in terms of inbound to the US. So the population will be the largest. And when they get here, they're spending more, which is important for bricks and mortar. So not just digital. When they come here, they're spending a lot more than any other tourist. And if you're in luxury, also important. So luxury sales, 2016, 32% of global luxury sales were in China. Before long, that would be 50%, 44% 2025. We're heading for 50% of global luxury sales from China. That's the importance of this market. That's why every business should, if they're not already, be taking note of China and this opportunity. So that's the country. Now e-commerce. So e-commerce, the largest e-commerce market in the world by far is now China. So let's look at how it got there. And it got there pretty fast. And you needed a kind of perfect storm for this to happen. And you had that. You had a number of factors. So one, you had a very weak retail environment in China. There are a ton of metrics you could look at to prove this. Here's one. If you look at malls per million people, US has 12. China had about 2.4 malls excuse me, per million people. So you had a weak retail environment. It was ripe for the picking. It was ripe for e-commerce to come along. Alibaba was one of the first companies. We launched marketplaces in China. And because marketplaces were really the first websites to launch in China, it's really a marketplace-dominated environment. The typical consumer doesn't shop around. They don't go from brand.com to brand.com, then to a marketplace. They go straight to a marketplace when they want to make a purchase. Once we had the marketplaces, we needed to engender trust. So we needed payments. We launched Alipay. There are a number of areas where China is way ahead of the rest of the world. Mobile payments is absolutely one of them. So if you look at the volume of mobile payments in 2016, China had 11x the size of mobile payments of the US. So payments, marketplace, weak retail environment. You also need good logistics. So in the US, we have 10 cities with over 1 million people in the US. If you add Canada, Canada has 6. So North America, 16 cities with over 1 million people. China has 143 cities with over 1 million people. You need a super good logistics network and infrastructure. It has to be good, has to be efficient, and it has to be cheap, which it is. So if you look at the, if you compare to the US, you deliver express mail, 100-gram package, LA to New York, costs $23. Same package, same size, same distance in China, $1.16. So you have an amazing logistics infrastructure. All these four things come together. That's why China has this incredible e-commerce market right now. You also need a big internet population. So China has 751 million online users right now. That's more than twice the population of the US are online in China. It's about the population of Europe are online in China. And we always get asked the question, do you see a slowdown anytime soon? And the answer is no, especially in e-commerce in China, because only half the country have internet right now. So there is a massive runway ahead in China for e-commerce. The rest of the country are getting connected like crazy. So this is not going to slow down anytime soon. Of course, we were born out of the internet. So I think a few of you will be familiar, of course, with Alibaba and maybe a few of our sites, but the vast majority of people are not familiar with our ecosystem. And again, I think that's important context to give you. So we started in 1999. Jack Ma founded the company with 18 other entrepreneurs in an apartment block in Hangzhou. We still have that apartment today. We use it for top secret projects. So we built these marketplaces, Alibaba.com, B2B, still the largest B2B site in the world. Then we launched Taobao, C2C, Tmall, B2C. We have Lazada, which gives a nice footprint in Southeast Asia, Paytm in India, AliExpress, which is China outbound. So we've got a number of these marketplaces. About 80% of e-commerce in China goes through one of our sites. So we have a big commerce business. We're also investing in media and entertainment. So we have Youku, which is the YouTube of China. It's our video platform. We have Weibo, which is the Twitter of China. We have Alibaba Pictures. We now have an office in Hollywood. So we're investing in content. We co-produced the last 5 movies with Paramount. We have a deal with Spielberg and Amblin to take those movies to China. As part of those deals, we get the distribution rights and also the merchandising rights. Depending on the movie, the merchandising rights sometimes can be far more profitable. We have a browser, we have Tmall TV. We also have local services. We have Fliggy, big travel business. We have Ali Health, health business, and a door-to-door food delivery business. And then underpinning these sites are a few very important support businesses. So we have Alipay. We want to make sure people can get paid easily. So we have Ant Financial, which has Alipay. We have logistics network, Sinow. We have a big marketing services division and cloud computing. Alibaba Cloud is one of our fastest growing divisions. So a little more context on each one, then I'll jump into how we view the consumer. But it's important to start with this. So Tmall is growing. We have a lot of active consumers on of course, our e-commerce websites. We currently have 617 million mobile monthly active users. That shows you how advanced China is in mobile, how advanced they are in mobile commerce. If you look at any Western sites and what their mobile monthly actives are, especially in commerce, you'll see just way lower, not even close. So it shows you how far advanced China is in terms of mobile. Same with Alipay, a lot of users on Alipay, far more than Western equivalents. Sinow serves all businesses, not just our own in China. We took a very different approach from Amazon, that buy warehouses and buy fleets. We took a look at China and said, look, there are enough warehouses, there are enough cars and trucks and planes. We don't need to buy this. We don't need to own these businesses, but we do need to create a platform to enable them to talk to each other a lot better than they are now. So Sinow does that. It created a uniform platform. So now you can figure out how you get a parcel from A to B, leveraging one of 1,000 different services in the most efficient and effective way. About 70% of all package delivery now goes through Sinow. Fliggy is our travel business. We're helping Chinese tourists travel to the rest of the world. Youku is our YouTube and social. Weibo is our Twitter, but a lot larger than Twitter. So we have this ecosystem of sites that all work together for the good of the consumer, but also good for the good of the business. So we help businesses sell into China. For all US brands, we're pretty much the gateway into China. We give them the tools and the platforms to sell, the payment services, the logistics, and the media platforms. And if you're thinking, we're just at the start of this thing, and there's probably only a few companies leveraging this, you'd be incorrect. I mean, most companies are selling on the platforms in China right now, or 75%. Forbes' most valuable brands are selling and thriving in China on these platforms. And one more metric to show you the opportunity. In 2010, China was neck and neck with the US, 140 million online shoppers. If we jump forward 2 years to 2020, 10 years later, it looks very different. So China will have over 3x the online shoppers of the US. Another reason every company should have China on their roadmap. So now, how we think about the consumer and consumer insight. I think there are 3 broad themes to talk about: context, convergence, and contact. Context for us is really about data. It's really about data and consumer insight. So we have a number of things happening, a number of benefits. One, we have real person identities. So for those 615 million monthly mobile active users, we know they're real people. So we have identity. But beyond identity, we also have full dimension analysis. Now, what do I mean by that? So one of the very many smart things Jack did when he set up these companies and the ecosystem, he made sure every one of our sites and platforms and businesses has the same user ID and password. So for each one of those individual 615 million people, we can see a lot of consumer insight across browsing, transactions, search, social, media, entertainment, travel. And that means we can do 2 things well. So one, we can make it a great experience for the consumer. We want to make sure every time that consumer comes back to any one of our sites, it's a better experience than the last time. So we make sure it's personalized. We leverage the insight we have to make sure every new visit is a better experience, is a better personalized experience than last, no matter what Alibaba Group site you're on. It's also beneficial for all our partners. So we can help businesses and brands find consumers that matter to them better than anyone. We can help them find them, but also help them understand them better than anyone. We don't want to own the data or own the customer in this. We also share a lot of that data with the brands to help them understand their customer. Here's another way to think about that. There are a lot of great companies out here. I've been very fortunate to work for some of them. You have great companies that help with branding, performance, and sales. But the challenge is, that they'll never share the consumer insight with each other and ultimately to the brand and the partner. They'll never share data. You have companies talking about multi-touch attribution. And they're right, multi-touch attribution is key. But I don't see a way to ever do it well in the US because these companies don't talk to each other. Multi-touch attribution is now based on cookies, which will mean that it will always be inaccurate. You can't do it well unless you have identity and you can tie multiple touch points. We have that. So because we have the ecosystem, we can do that. We can do multi-touch attribution based on identity very effectively. And here's how it plays out in a few examples. So Mattel, great partners with Mattel. Mattel, we can help companies like Mattel enter China. We can be that gateway. So the consumer insight that we have, we can say to Mattel, look, you might have 5,000 SKUs that sell very well for you in North America, but the Chinese market, as we know, is very different. So based on the insight that we have, we can say to Mattel, look, we know for a fact only 200 of those SKUs will work in China. And those 200 will probably be 90% of your revenue. So don't waste your time with the 5,000. Enter China with those 200 SKUs. That will be a great start. Beyond that, we're development partners for Mattel. Because we've got that insight over the 600 million people, we know what mothers are looking for. So we are development partners with Mattel, specifically their Fisher-Price division. We can help Fisher-Price develop product for the next 1, 2, 3 years out based on the consumer insight we have. We're great partners with Pepsi. So companies like Pepsi, CPG, we can help them understand their customer better than anyone else. We help them understand who's searching for Pepsi, who's browsing Pepsi, who's buying Pepsi, drinking Pepsi, the correlation between someone who's just viewed a Pepsi ad on Youku and then has made a Pepsi purchase. We can do that because we have the ecosystem. Burberry, luxury brands, we can be great partners helping them find those high-value consumers. Travel, we have a deal with Marriott. We help Marriott fill Marriott hotel rooms in China, but also the rest of the world, using that consumer insight that we have. The truth is, we've been talking about big data for a long time, and the hardest part about it is actually getting that data and consumer insight. Once you have it, leveraging it is the easy part, and it's actually brand and industry agnostic. So the last example, who saw this movie, A Dog's Purpose? Came out last year. 2 of you. This is my case in point. Excellent. So this was where has the love gone for Dennis Quaid canine dramas in this country? This movie came out last year. It did about 55 million at the US box office, which wasn't bad. But historically, movies like this, Dennis Quaid canine dramas, had no right doing any business at all in China. Historically, China, we wanted Godzilla movies and King Kong and Star Wars and blockbusters. But as part of our deal with Amblin, we took it to China. And we leveraged the consumer insight that we had. We simply targeted everyone we knew owned a dog, had bought dog food the past 2 weeks, had bought a dog toy, had ever watched a Dennis Quaid movie, had ever watched a dog-related video on Youku. And we targeted them with ads for A Dog's Purpose. This movie did $88 million in China. So now Hollywood are taking notice that, wow, okay, maybe there's something in this data and consumer insight, and they're working with it a lot more. And we're leveraging the data in AI. So we have to. So AI now, customer service, the very simple things we use it for. So customer service, AI now deals with 90% of customer inquiries on our platform. We can sense emotion in the text, so if we have any issues, we can quickly pass that person off to a call center. Personalization. We have to leverage AI for personalization. If we want every visit to be better than the last, we have no choice. We're creating billions of pages on the fly every second to improve personalization. It has to be AI. We're also making improvements in the supply chain. Because we have that consumer insight, you can go way back in the supply chain. The consumer insight enables businesses to A/B test like they've never been able to do before. So they can A/B test product design, package design, marketing, shipment methods. You name it, they can probably test it because we have that consumer insight. So we can also help improve the supply chain. So that's how we think about context. Next, convergence. So convergence is how we think about really omnichannel and bringing online and offline back together again. So Jack coined a term, new retail, a couple of years ago. And the essence of new retail is we want to put the customer first. So no matter what device they're using, whether they're shopping online or offline, it has to be a seamless experience. So it has to be seamless. The merchandising should be seamless. The shopping cart should be seamless. The loyalty programs, the orders, everything should be a seamless experience, helping them no matter where they choose to shop, giving them the best experience. If we do that well, we can inspire potential needs very well and provide even more value to our consumers. And it really flips the model around. So historically it was B2C. Now we think it's C2B. Because businesses now have access to this consumer insight, they have the opportunity to leverage just as much value from the consumer as the consumer does from the business. They can test their models, their business on the fly every day because they've got access to the insight. So it becomes C2B. In terms of offline, we have stakes, or we own more and more offline entities. So we own in-time shopping malls across China. We have a big stake in Sun Art hypermarkets with Auchan. I believe it's about 60 big hypermarkets across China right now. Suning is the Best Buy of China. Hamar grocery stores, which I'll talk about, right down to local stores and mom and pop stores in rural areas. And very simply, we improve the customer experience by doing things like this. So with Suning, we can take our user base and match that data with Sunning's 280 million members. So for the first time ever, we have a full view of what that person is doing online and offline. It means we can provide a better experience for that consumer. So now they can go to Tmall and they can buy a TV like they had before and get delivered to their home from Sunning. But now it's pooled inventory, so they can buy it online and they can pick it up in store if they want. They can buy it online and they can return it in store. Now they can go to the store first. They can go to the store first and get that consumer service in store and try it out before they buy it. The big difference in store now is it's not cold contact. It's not a first meeting and transaction. Sunning have the customer insight, so they can treat that customer differently to how they would have before with no insight. So that's the idea how we use it. We have Hema stores we launched about a year ago. These are going well. So it's a supermarket, it's a restaurant, it's a warehouse. You go to these, about 600,000 square feet. You can buy produce from all over the world, especially fresh produce. You can also have it cooked in front of you in store. But the biggest innovation is it's also a fulfillment center. So we take a third of every store and we make it a fulfillment center. So you'll see these bags and these packers in store and a pulley system of bags flying everywhere in store. And then when you go outside, you'll see these being packed on motorcycles and being shipped or really driven all around China. If you live within 5 kilometers of any Hema store, you can fill your cart online and have it delivered within 30 minutes to your home now. These are working exceptionally well. We have Hema stores. We have cashierless stores. So using QR codes, you enter the store, you fill your basket in the store. Once you leave, it's facial recognition. So we leverage facial recognition. Obviously, it will identify you. It will automatically debit your Alipay account. We have smart stores. So this should be a hygiene factor. We think anytime the customer needs data, they should be able to access it easily. So in this case, they're in a store. She scanned the garment. Right away, she can see everything about that garment. Inventory, colors, sizes, a lookbook, reviews of that garment, everything. She can actually buy the garment in store, or now she has it, she can put it in her cart and it will be delivered within 1 to 2 days. We have kiosks in the stores. Just essentially to do the same thing. You scan the RFID, you get all the information available about that garment. So here again, a lookbook, inventory, pricing, colors. If the customer is not happy with seeing a model wearing that garment, we also have a virtual fitting room. So this lady's just scanned her face. That's her face on the screen. She can now mix and match and choose clothing in the store, see what it looks like on her avatar. She can whittle the selection down and take a selection to the changing room to actually try on. Or if she wants, she can buy it straight away. Again, scanning the QR code means the purchase is made, it'll be delivered to your home within 2 days. The other challenge that stores have, it's very hard to stock every SKU possible. It's hard to think of any store that can actually has the size to stock everything available. So to solve that for the consumer, we have cloud shelves. So this is a bag and luggage store. They obviously can't stock everything available. If they don't have something in stock, this person can go to the cloud shelf and just scan every available SKU that store is selling. And again, with one scan, that product will be delivered to their home within 2 days. We're also helping rural stores and mom and pop with Connect Retail. So because we have that consumer insight, we can be great partners for these smaller stores and tell them what the demand is in their area, what brands they should be stocking to maximize revenue, maximize sales. So we've created inventory management, sales management tools and platforms for them. In a lot of cases, we also do financial offer microloan financing. So Connect Retail, travel retail, we're changing. So that, the commerce, payments, travel, pretty symbiotic. They can work like this. So now companies in the US can target consumers in China that they know about to visit their city. So they know they're about to visit, they know they're high spending, They can target them on a number of our platforms and offer them something different in New York. They can offer them to come to their store and experience something different in store. Maybe it's an offer, maybe it's a shopping experience. Once the Chinese traveler gets to the store, maybe in New York, they can experience what the shop is offering. They can make the transaction in Alipay and then return to China. Once they return to China, most of these stores now have Tmall flagship stores. The store can carry on communicating with this traveler back in China and sell them even more goods based on the consumer insight we have. You know, we're really thinking broadly about consumers and retail and commerce and thinking about every industry, how we can make it more efficient and effective for the consumer. Even when it comes to cars. So these are our car vending machines. So a consumer just using their mobile phone and Alipay can go to a vending machine. We know who they are, we have identity. We have credit scoring and financial. They can go to the vending machine with one scan, they can take a car from the vending machine. They can take it for a test drive. If they like it, they can keep it. So that's concept, but these are live right now. We have a partnership with Ford. We have these vending machines live in China right now. They're working very well. So that's convergence. The last one is contact. So contact is again how we think about the consumer experience. And we want to make the consumer experience more than just a transaction. We think it should be an experience. We think it should be fun again. So who's heard of Singles Day or 11/11? Probably about a quarter of you. Okay. So Singles Day, we have this once a year. It's the 11th of November every year. It's our major sales day across our platforms. It starts the night before with a 4-hour gala TV show, one of the most watched TV shows in China. We fly a lot of celebs, basketball stars, movie stars. It's a big deal. Then on the stroke of midnight, the sale starts and craziness takes place. So last year, 140,000 brands participated. Nearly every country participated, 60,000 international brands. 90% of what we sold was sold via a mobile device, which is incredible. The year before was 82%. So before long, we're going to have these big sales. It's not going to be long before we're seeing close to 100% of the purchases are made on a mobile device. We generated a lot of orders. Now, we started this sale in 2009. The first year we did it, we made $7 million, which is not bad. It's not bad in one day. Last year we did a little bit better. We did $25.3 billion in one day. In 24 hours worth of sale, 25.3 billion. To put that into context for you, it's bigger than Cyber Monday, it's bigger than Black Friday, it's bigger than the whole Thanksgiving weekend put together. And for fun, if we plotted that one day worth of sales against total country e-commerce sales for the leading countries in the world, that one day would be the 9th largest country. We sold more in one day than Brazil sell in e-commerce completely across their country in 1 year we did in one day. That's the size of this thing and the size of the opportunity. And we're making it fun again. So we're testing a lot of things out. Virtual reality. We created a Macy's store. This you could use Oculus or HTC. You could download on your mobile device. We had 11 million downloads of this. And you could make the purchases in the app. You could look around, like you see here. You could find a product and make the purchase in the app. We're gamifying it, so kind of like Pokemon Go. During the sales, you could chase a Tmall cat around the store. You throw packages at the cat. If you hit the cat, you've got more coupons. We have a partnership with Starbucks. So Starbucks just launched the largest Starbucks in the world in Shanghai. Just an incredibly big store. They're leveraging our augmented reality. So now you open your phone, you get a map of the store. You can see history of coffee roasting process, a history of Starbucks. It's educational. My favorite is probably our fashion shows. So we have a Tmall collection fashion show. This year will be its 3rd year. We run the fashion show. Most major brands participate in the fashion show. Everyone can view it. We live streamed the last one to 100 million people. You could live stream the fashion show. Everyone could view this on their mobile device. The biggest difference with our fashion shows and everyone else's, every model you see, every garment you see is see now, buy now. You can buy everything straight away that you see in that fashion show. And it worked very well. And for fun, look, everything sells. You know, it's not just clothing, it's not just tech. If you make it fun, if you make it easy, everything sells, especially on Singles Day. So we sold 600 tons of Costco nuts in 24 hours. Costco were pretty happy with us that day. Fruit sells a lot on these days. We sold 168 tons of Northwest cherries, obviously coming from the US, in 24 hours. Tech, as you can imagine, sells very well. My favorite is probably the next one. We sold 100 Maseratis in the first 18 seconds of Singles Day 2 years ago. We since bettered that, maybe, with 350 Alfa Romeos in the first 33 seconds. Things sell. So context, convergence, contact. Context is about the consumer insight and making sure everything we do has consumer insight and data wrapped in. So we're making every experience better for the consumer and also providing great opportunities for brands who want to enter China and sell in China. Convergence, again, is putting the consumer at the forefront of this and saying no matter where they shop, if they're shopping online or offline, we need to make it as easy as possible for them and as seamless as possible to improve that experience. And contact, we want to be much more the transaction. We want to make this fun again for the consumer. Thank you. I think I have time for a couple of questions.
Thanks so much. This is very, very amazing. I'm Sunny, a student at Yale. So I had a question about the luxury market. So you had a great slide about Chinese consumers going to represent 44% of the luxury purchase by 2025. And if my understanding is not wrong, majority of the luxury purchase still happens offline because people desire for that different experience. So I'm wondering what is Alibaba's plan in terms of taking the pie of this business? Is it going to planning to like driving the purchase behavior shift online? So what exactly is that? Yeah.
Well, you're right. A lot of it is offline now, but it is shifting increasingly, especially if you look at the consumer who's buying luxury. In the West, and forgive me, I don't have the actual metric in my head, but if you look at the West, the average age of a luxury purchaser is probably something like late 30s. In China, it's like mid-20s. So it's these millennials that are buying luxury in China, and of course, they're e-commerce first. So you'll see that shift, you'll see the growth in e-commerce in luxury sales happen pretty quickly. And I think we will help drive that. With everything I just talked about, the consumer insight drives that. But specifically within Tmall, we created a new Tmall luxury category. And a lot of luxury brands are signing up to that right now. And for that, it's the same deal like the Burberry example I gave. Burberry have a luxury flagship store with us now. We can help Burberry target very efficiently who's buying luxury in China right now. And they can do it across their stores. So that they also have customer insight who's buying in Burberry stores, who's buying online. And with that data, they can improve their business even further. So I think in summary, it will shift. I think you'll see e-commerce take a bigger share of the luxury market pretty quickly going forward.
Hi, thank you. Great presentation.
Hi.
I work for an insurance company, so not nearly as glamorous as the stuff that you're showing us. But I'm curious, what do you think are some of the driving forces behind the clearly increase in innovation at Chinese companies versus, I'll have to say, a waning of that at some of the tech companies here in California or in the US?
I think access to technology. Access to technology, different culture, everything is developed differently in China. You know, payments developed differently, went straight from cash, it bypassed credit cards, everything else, straight to mobile payments. Commerce is the same. It went straight from bricks and mortar, a weak landscape, straight towards mobile. And I think it's the proliferation of mobile that's done it. You know, there's 751 million internet users in China. Pretty much all of them, their primary device for accessing the internet is not a laptop. It's certainly not a desktop. It's mobile. So mobile is driving that without doubt. And you see companies springing up and innovating faster than ever before, like us and the other big tech companies in China.